documenting a lot of events, people's weddings and stuff. But I just, I was looking for a purpose, I think, and I felt that TFM's mission really resonated with me, that we can build nation builders. We are the nation builders, and we can build more nation builders in classrooms, and that really resonated with me, and that's why I decided to pivot from mass comm to education.
Yeah, I guess similar to that as well. The mission really stood out to me when I was considering, oh, what's my life going to be after the graduation, right? And yeah, I think Kula and Bernard really put it all very well. Thank you very much. So for me personally, before I joined the fellowship, I had to think about a lot of things, right? There was a lot of initial concerns. Did you guys have any?
And if definitely, there were so many.
Okay, all right, let's hear some from you guys, maybe.
Right, can go first?
I can share a short, quick one.
Okay.
I know it probably sounds quite comical if I tell it to you, but honestly, one of my biggest worries joining the fellowship was, could I be a school teacher? Because I didn't see myself as a particularly serious person. I was like, I don't know if I'm the type of person that should be teaching students.
I think, to be fair, a lot of us might have felt this way, right?
Nobody thought this face would be a teacher.
It's imposter syndrome now.
Yeah.
And the second part, I guess quite funnily, was I didn't think I could wake up on time. Because school starts at 7:20, and I was a guy in university who was late for every morning class. So I know it's a bit of a strange consideration, but
you have to think about these things,
It was a
right?
genuine worry.
You really have to think about these
But
things.
it worked lah.
Right.
So after that, did you wake up in time?
Most of the time.
I'm sure you did. Like, if you didn't, right? If you didn't, you might have gotten really badly from the school principals, right?
Okay,
2
all
years.
right.
Yeah.
Woke up on time every day.
Awesome. Good job, Kula. What about you, Bernard? What were your initial concerns?
There was a few actually. So I think number one is that after this pivot into education, what is it going to be after that, right? Like, am I going to go back to mass comm, or go back to videography, or would I stay in this pathway? So obviously there was a lot of question marks, and my parents particularly were a bit worried lah. So like they said, so you have spent like 4 years in this industry, and then now you make this pivot. How is this going to be meaningful, right?
Yeah.
So obviously there's a lot of thoughts about how let's treat this as a leadership training program, and how we can take some of the skills that we have learned here and carry it through to the next job, which I'm doing right now. So, and then there were also finances. So I'm like, like a lot of people say that teachers get paid really badly, and then I was wondering, can this job sustain myself? Is this a passion project, or can it be a lifelong career, right? That was another thing. And I think most importantly was also, Teach for Malaysia fellowship requires us to be placed in different regions, and that means I will be away from my family. So can I leave my main source of support and still be as high performing as I want to be, wherever I'm placed? Yeah. So these were a few reasons, which I'm sure most of you, all of us here, might have thought about, right?
Yeah. So two things that I want to kind of just pick up from what you just shared, Bernard. Number one, how you said that it's a leadership development program, right? And I think I really want to highlight this because similarly to Bernard's parents, my parents was also like, tapi if you want to quit halfway, boleh ke? I'm just like, Mom, I don't think that's something that you want to ask. So how I actually thought about it and tried to share it with them is, you look at it as any other corporate job punya leadership development program lah. It's the same thing. Cuma I guess the only biggest difference to me, I think, is then the impact that you get to make. So not only are you learning and not only are you developing yourself, but then you also get to develop students. And I think that's super powerful. And the second thing from what I wanted to highlight from what Bernard said is about having to relocate. The fear of my support system. How? So what's great about, I think, at least for our cohort, the 2017 cohort, we all got placed in Johor. And that was all the support system we needed. Really.
And that was really helpful. So a lot of us, for me at least, it was the first time leaving my house, right? And having these people to support throughout the journey was really good.
Yeah, totally. And on top of that also, all of us fellows, when we were going through our fellowship program, we had leadership development officers. So each and every one of us had a coach to follow us across our 2 years to help us with our leadership progress, which
Yeah.
I think was really helpful.
Yeah.
Not just for me. What do you guys think about your
I agree.
experience with your coaches?
I agree. I want to shout out to Hui Zhi, if you're listening, my LDO officer. I really appreciated your help, and I think you have, you're one of the person that journeyed with me throughout the program, which is really what I needed, lah.
Yeah.
Because without the main support system, I felt that with the LDOs, the cohort mates, is the reason why I think I did the best I could in the fellowship. Yeah.
Okay, let's just dive a little bit deeper on this like personal development part of it all, right? So on top of having your coaches
Yeah.
and like having your support system around and everything, what other areas did you see yourself grow and develop in across your fellowship program? Can you just share like what are the main highlights? What do you think, like, you know what, if I did not go through the fellowship experience, I would not have had this growth in me? Yeah.
Honestly, for me, the biggest growth was in terms of empathy. I think to some extent, everybody in Malaysia, we're all in our own bubbles. And going through the fellowship really helped me break through that bubble and look at what life was like outside of that bubble. And it helped me realize that, you know, we have a lot of preconceptions about people. And a lot of times those preconceptions are wrong. And it shows that, you know, empathy is one of the most important things. I think that's honestly the most important thing the fellowship taught me.
I agree. 100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think just to add on to that, right? I think before this, let's just say we read about the news on the struggles of the B40 communities, right? But then we have never really seen them, so sometimes it's difficult to empathize with them. So after going through the program and really and I had the opportunity to visit some students' families, and that really helped me to picture the challenges that they face. And right now, when I look at the papers, right, when I see these B40 communities, this word come out, is not just a sea of people, but I can think of the students that we have taught before and relate to those challenges. I think that was very powerful. And the next thing was, I think another thing I learned is resilience, and really, if this is something that you want to do and you really want to see impact, we need to put in a lot of time, a lot of effort into the work. And this fellowship comes with a 2-year, with a contract, right? So with this contract, it reminded me that, okay, Bernard, no matter what, you cannot give up, right? So that was this this training to help me to really question myself whether this is what I really want to do. And after the 2 years, it is. And it reassured me that this is what I want to do, and it really, and it is the reason why that I continue to do what I do today as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think just a little bit to add on to that also, my whole deal with my parents was like, okay, after the fellowship program, you go back to marketing, okay? And I'll be like, okay. But then, you know, experiencing it for yourself, it's kind of hard to just come out of the mission.
Yes.
Right? It's like, you know, you're so deep inside it already, and you're just like, I want to be able to contribute more to this, which is what our most of our alumni are trying to do even after the program. If they don't continue to be in school, they continue to try and impact education in many other ways. So on the note of, since you guys are sharing already about what the leadership development is all about, what are some of the skills that you got out of it, could you share maybe how those skills kind of help you in where you are today? So maybe you can just share again a little bit about what you're doing now, and how the fellowship has contributed to where you are today.
So right now I work at Closing the Gap Malaysia, as I mentioned earlier, and our programs are very focused on helping underprivileged youth access university. So if we look at how higher education is now, many students enter higher education without a full understanding of the pathways available to them. I know even for me, I was very firmly middle class, and I didn't understand the pathways available to me. And if someone like me doesn't understand the pathways available, what more, a student whose parents have never been to university?
Yeah.
And I think this is something that can only fully be understood and realized when you have extensive experience with that community, like what Bernard mentioned. When you're talking to these students day in and day out, and you understand what are the challenges in accessibility, and you understand, okay, these are the steps that we need to put in place. And I think that was something that's only possible through my experience in the fellowship, when I was really embedded in these communities and I got to have that first-hand understanding.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Let me think of how should I put this. But before that, so I currently work in Pemimpin GSL.
Yep.
So we are an NGO that provides training and support to government school leaders. So the Pengetua, Guru Besar, PK1, PK Petang, basically the SLT team, Senior Leadership Team. And why do we think this is an important thing to do is because we think that the current school leaders lack training and support. So before they become principal, they only get very little training, like less than 3 months training, and they are so from a teacher to PK and to Pengetua, right? They got very little training from the MOE lah. So, and we also realized that from a study by McKinsey, we found out that 25% of the student outcome depends on the school leader. So if a school leader is great, right, it can drive the student outcome a lot more higher than those without a good school leader. So that's why we think this is really important. And let me try to link to what I've learned in fellowship and how it has helped me here, right?
Yeah.
I think there are two things. One is stakeholder engagement. So as a teacher, we need to engage with different kind of, a lot of different kind of characters, right?
Yeah.
So like parents, nice ones, not so nice ones, students, principals and teachers, and we need to deal with externals as well. So with this, right, it really gave me the soft skills to learn how to talk to different people when you're faced with Pengetua or someone that is at a more authoritative role. Obviously, we need to speak differently, and that's one, which is still very relevant in my job nowadays.
Definitely. Yeah.
The second one is I think problem-solving skills. So I think in towards the end of our program, right, all of us are required to carry out our own initiative.
Yep.
And whenever they talk about initiative, they talk about really understanding the problems that our stakeholders face before doing it. So I thought that was something that is something that I can still apply in my job nowadays, because we realize that sometimes a lot of education initiatives are done without understanding what the crowd really needs. Yeah, so I think that's my takeaway.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I definitely resonate a lot with the whole how you approach a problem part of it all, right? Because I think it really makes you, because this is people's livelihoods, you know, you really want to impact their life, and you don't want to just give them a band-aid solution, right? So it makes us really, really think about okay, what is that final year initiative going to be? Because we are about to leave the program, and I want to ensure that we have something sustainable for you guys that would actually really, truly benefit you, right? Okay, so we've got about 5 minutes before we go into break. So one last question for you guys.
Sure.
It's a little bit more personal. Just wanted to ask you to maybe share with us what is the key highlight of your fellowship, and the biggest challenge you had to face, and how did you get over it? Yeah, so whoever wants to go first, pick that
5
up.
minutes. I think you can just take the whole 5 minutes. Because there's so many things to say.
Yeah, there's
right?
too many.
I'm so sorry. I
No
don't want
worries,
to
you
answer
can-
some
No worries, you
no.
can continue after this, right? So,
Okay,
go ahead.
I think I'll share my challenge first, because my challenge, I think it's so exciting that it still motivates me today, but it's a bit of a weird challenge. So back in August last year, I had scheduled a lot of different things that were happening at the same time. So I had to hike up Kinabalu, and I had to run an event for about 100 people in the same week.
Oh.
Because you know how it is when you want to go to Kinabalu, you book 1 year in advance.
Yeah.
So I booked it without knowing what I was going to do. So I had to help coordinate an event while I was climbing up a mountain. Thankfully, the team was really great. It was a group of Teach for Malaysia fellows, super capable people.
Okay.
So
what event is this?
it was SPLAT, Student Platform. It was our debate initiative.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
We have a Facebook page, check it out.
Plug.
But when it came to success, I'm very proud of this.
Nice.
So I taught Form 4 students, and when I finished my first year of fellowship, they were entering Form 5. And I recommended them to join Closing the Gap Malaysia.
Yeah.
So when I finished my fellowship, these students also finished SPM.
Right.
So I got to see what they went on to do. So I got to see one of my students secure a scholarship and get into Sunway, another one secured a scholarship and go into Help. And I think the one that I find most exciting is that one of our students, right after SPM, she actually joined us as an intern.
Nice.
And so one of the students that I taught in Form 4 is actually currently interning with Closing the Gap, and she's been working with us for 9 months, and it's been incredible to see her grow.
Amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. You see, this is one of the best things that you get when you speak to our alumni and fellows. Everyone has such a different experience, and it makes you like, yeah, this is the reason why Teach for Malaysia exists and why we do what we do. All right, Bernard, do you want to share?
Oh, that's it. Okay. No. So I feel like he probably has a lot more, but thank you for giving me the time. Just quick check. Time?
We're good with time. Go for it.
Okay.
Don't
so
worry.
I think challenges, let me just mention a few. So number one is, I think the misalignment of expectations of what I wanted for the school and what the school leaders wanted for the school. So I think when I went into school, I found out that we have this thing called Bina Insan, right?
Bina Insan Guru.
Yeah. No, Bina Insan Pelajar, right? So like, it's like on Friday, and then when they do this Bina Insan character building thing, they would split the students according to races. And then I felt that if we want to build leaders and build like true Malaysian community, right, we have to do it together. But then the school was quite fixated on that we need to do, the Chinese school one group, Malays, and then Indians. So when I wanted to carry out some initiative, when I suggested that why not we exchange, right? So for instance, some Malay kids can share their experiences with other communities. This idea didn't really, didn't really sit well with the school leaders, because this is what they have been doing for the longest time. So it was difficult for them to change.
Yeah.
So with this kind of things, right? And then I realized, as a fellow, sometimes we think we can make great change in schools, but because there's a lot of different culture and pre-existing events that has been going on for a long time, it's very difficult to change these things. So this is just one example, and there are other things that the school is used to doing. For instance, they're used to using paper, doing documentation on paper. I'm like, why not we move to online instead, right? So these kind of things didn't really sit well. So this is one of my challenges.
Okay,
Yeah.
just like trying to, I guess, introduce new
things.
concepts
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff.
I think to add on to that, there's a big cultural difference.
Yes.
It's like person organizational fit. When you're used to, you do everything on Google Suites, you do
Yeah.
everything on the cloud, and then sometimes in school you'll be like, we're still doing it on paper?
Yeah.
But that's where the empathy component comes into, right?
Yeah.
You have to recognize that, people don't just pick up technology like that. Someone
Yeah.
needs to teach it first.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah, definitely. I was just about to say the same thing. Thank you, Kula. I think you put it really well. And just to add on a little bit to that also, because I definitely coming in to the community that I was with, it was a challenge as well, because it's it's very different, right? Because you're coming in from a completely different community, going into a different community. And you sometimes even come in with like a mindset of like, I'm gonna change everything, and we're gonna rescue everyone, it's gonna be great, right? And I think that was a little bit dangerous that for myself that I had that, because
I agree.
we're not there to completely change everything, because we're not saying that everything is wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just, that's why we need to be there, right? That's why
Yeah.
we needed to be a part of the fellowship program, so we could be on the ground with the communities and to understand them better. Okay, Bernard, you share your challenge. Do you want to share your highlight?
Actually, there's a lot, but let me think of one. Okay, so I'm going to share about my initiative as well. So it's called the Young Journalists. So basically, we train like student journalists to do video interviews and to interview people and to produce a video from start to the end, from planning, script writing, editing, and publishing. So I think it is one of the few initiatives that I managed to get students from different backgrounds, so like different races get to come together, and then they can work on something different despite their differences. And I also, and one of my students that I coached, right, her name is Reshma. So Reshma was one of my students in the initiative, and because of the exposure that she has gotten, she feels more confident to interact with people, and slowly then after joining this initiative, right, I think I can see her growing to be a better leader and she have moved to different clubs in the school as a leader as well. And that has motivated her to continue to pursue higher education after high school. And she's one of the first that is going to university in a family actually. And I'm very proud that today, I think this month she's going to go to IPG Pulau Pinang to become a teacher. Yeah, so I think, yeah, that's one of my highlights.
That's really great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, we're actually still okay for time. I got one last question for you guys. Okay, so having experienced the fellowship program, and then now you're here where you are because of that, what would now be your hope for education in the future?
Right.
And how do you see yourself contributing to that? Yes. Take your time, it's okay. It's a pretty big question. It's a pretty big question. Yeah.
All right, I've got it.
Let's hear it.
I would say my aim is very in line with Closing the Gap's aim, because ultimately, though, yes, we talk about university access, but if you think about it, right, the skills that you need for university are actually the skills that you need for life. What I would hope is that we change education and we move education towards the direction that everybody can become a lifelong learner. Because we shouldn't have this mindset that education is limited to school.
Yeah.
Education is a lifelong process. Many of the things which are commonplace now didn't exist 10 or 20 years ago. True. And if we are not preparing students to learn for the rest of their life, it's inevitable that one day they will be the people using paper. We'll be like, oh, you're using the cloud, I'm using telekinesis. No lah, but
yeah, I get you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So to prepare
for a lifetime of change.
Okay, thank you. Very well put.
All right.
What about you, Bernard?
So like hopes for education, right? So I think for me, one of the biggest things I hope is that all teachers and school leaders will get quality training before they join the service and during they join the service. Because I feel that a lot of times during IPG, when they're in teacher training college, they get like a few years to really study on what's needed to be applied in classrooms. But when they are on the field, right, situation can be very different, and actually consistent training, continuous training is very important. So linking to the lifelong learning part, not only students, right, teachers also need to be lifelong learners so that they can prepare the students for the future.
Yeah.
So I feel that if you give me one superpower to change the education scene, right, it will be to give all teachers quality training, and I think that would solve a lot of problems already. And if I were to give a second one, it will be to give more autonomy to school leaders and teachers to make more decisions for the school. So for instance, a lot of school leaders don't have the authority to hire and fire, so they cannot control the talent pool that they have. And they also cannot control the transfer of school teachers. So with these two limitations, right, they have to always work with whatever they have, and that is very tough. And especially when they have teachers that are not performing very well, they need to continuously find ways to work with them, even though they are sort of slowing the group down. So I feel like if school leaders are given the authority to pick who they want, they can lead the schools much better.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that's based on your experience with working with so many school leaders now.
Yep.
I think just like harping on a little bit on what these two guys have just said, I think, I am also a firm believer in having more autonomy and because you understand the community that you're working with, right?
Yep.
The school that I was teaching in and the school that Kula was teaching in, probably two very different worlds,
Yep.
right? So it is not a one-size-fit-all type of solution that you can give.
Yep.
And I think everyone, not just teachers, not just people who are in the system now, I feel like every single one in different levels should be involved in education to actually make this a reality.
Yeah.
Okay, on that note, I just want to share with everyone that we will be going in a 5-minute break soon. You can please feel free to send in your questions and we'll answer it in the upcoming section. All right. Thank you very much, you guys, and thank you guys.
See you later.
An excellent education to me is that doesn't necessarily the education prepares you for the examination. The education has to prepare you for the life itself.
Pendidikan yang holistik juga, yang excellent education also make the
also make a student feel that they are capable of doing something.
But besides that also, an excellent education also stands for a teamwork. We can interact with each other in our friends and also doing group work, helping each other.
Bagi saya, excellent education means satu pendidikan yang berkualiti, memberi semua murid berfikir dengan waras mengenai masa depan dia.
At the point, many children in Malaysia don't have the opportunity to attain an excellent education.
Cabaran besar yang kami hadapi di kalangan pelajar adalah dari segi kedudukan ekonomi keluarga mereka
ஏழ்மை வந்து ஒரு காரணமாக இருக்குது. இப்போ நிறைய குடும்பங்கள் வந்து ஏழை குடும்பங்களில் அப்பா அம்மா படிக்க தெரியாதவங்களாக இருக்கலாம். அதனால் அவங்களுக்கு வந்து கல்வியோட அருமை தெரியல. பிள்ளைங்களையும் வந்து அவங்க பள்ளிக்கு அனுப்பி கல்வி கற்கிறதுக்கு அவங்க சரியான ஆதரவு வழங்கலை. இதனால் மாணவர்களும் கல்வியோட அருமை தெரியாமல் சில பேர் பள்ளிக்கு போகாமல் போய் வேலை செய்வாங்க. அவங்களோட எதிர்காலம்.
郊外的学生们需要走大概几公里的路程来去上学。
So, well, I think the challenges I face in my school is about language. They'll find it really hard difficulties on speaking and interacting with other new people in English.
A movement is needed to end education inequity because none of us have the solution on our own.
Teaching is never, for me, a job. It's a service, it's a calling. So not everyone can be teachers.
Many of us become teachers, some for the sheer love and compassion and passion for education, but many become teachers because it's a job of convenience. Yeah, when it becomes a job of convenience, you cannot be an effective leader.
And that's why I'm saying Teach for Malaysia has got a different concept altogether. They are not taking teachers and training them to become teachers. They are engaging with a group of people who's passionate about education.
What we look for in Teach Malaysia is we're looking for leaders that are willing to take that step at the classroom level, school, district, or even state level and national level to drive systemic change needed.
And I come from a rather simple background. My father is a clerk. I had a person in my life who was willing to believe in me and who thought that I deserved a good education. And I think because of that, I'm inspired to think that everybody else deserves an excellent education.
So teachers are like the beacon, are like the lighthouse. I want to be that lighthouse for my students.
Throughout the fellowship, I learned to be a better leader. I guess I've never seen myself as a leader until I'm a teacher, because you're faced with hundreds of students every day and you have to come up with solutions sometimes immediately.
But the best part about the program is the alumni movement.
If they have gone through the 2 years of teaching, they would understand what it takes to educate a child. And from outside, they would be able to influence the system.
When we come out as alumni, and whatever way that we work in, we try to address this problem.
So right now, 4 of us, Teach for Malaysia alumni, we are starting up a literacy intervention program called My Readers. It is aimed to help students who have no foundation in English literacy, to help them go from being illiterate to literate in 27 weeks.
You know, we shouldn't be teaching the kids just so that they can answer exams. We should be teaching the kids so that they can use the knowledge to solve a problem that they see in life. And that's what we are doing at the social enterprise that I co-founded with 3 other Teach for Malaysia alumni.
Last year we achieved the Sekolah Bayangah status because we jumped, I think, more than 300 rankings in the whole of Malaysia.
Teach Malaysia is a movement of change.
Changing education is a movement because the problems that we face are actually society-wide.
I meet many people and they ask me, how could we help the Ministry of Education? And one classic way is, how do we empower Teach for Malaysia?
We need individuals, we need institutions, we need corporations, we need the ministry, we need parents of the communities, and more importantly, we need the students themselves to believe in the ideals of Malaysia.
Hi everyone, thanks for still staying with us. So right now we will be answering some questions that you have shared with us. All right, let's start with a pretty simple one. Hani asks, first, could you share how your first day of teaching went? This is a cute question.
Okay. You wanna go first or?
Sure. My first day of teaching, honestly, was quite disastrous. But I think it was more disastrous in my perception than in actuality. Because something that you quickly learn in this job, right, is that you have to let go of the perfectionist mindset. Because there are so many variables, each student's needs are different. You know, there could be factors completely out of your control. For example, suddenly like there's a fire alarm. So you quickly learn to let go of that perfectionist mindset. But on that first day, I still had that perfectionist mindset. So to me, it felt like a disaster. Like even when a student was late to answer a question, I was internally freaking out. I was like, oh my god, am I a bad teacher?
Yeah.
So, but it got better. It got better.
Okay.
It does get better, guys.
Yeah.
How about you, Bernard?
I think I'm speaking on behalf of all of us here, lah. So on the first day when I entered school, right, there was a lot of tension staring. I mean, there were a lot of people staring at us. So I think students, when we walk past the pejabat or the classrooms, for example, a lot of students were just wondering, who is this young-looking teacher, you know? Then, yeah, there was a lot of tension, and I felt a little bit like a K-pop star that day. Like, no other places, right, would I get this kind of attention. But it was really nice because I felt welcomed by the school leader. So like they actually went to the PPD office, the district office, to meet with us, and then once we reach school, they will give a brief on, okay, so today this is, they will introduce me to my mentor, as well as different classes that I had. And so happened that mine was a little bit more organized because I am coming in on a day where another teacher is going on maternity leave. Yeah, so it was a little bit more organized because I already know which classes there are, and my seats, for example. And I think having a fellow which is one cohort before me in the same school really helps. So they already know what to expect. Okay, so this teacher is going to come in, and what can they do? What can we give them? Yeah, so it was a lot better than I thought it would be.
Okay, great. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. As for me, apparently I made a student cry on my first day. I'm not really sure what I did, but let's just keep it at that. It's more important what these guys have to say. Okay, continued question from Hani. She is wondering if TFM provides pathways for their alumni if they wanted to continue teaching and contributing to the community. Anyone of you would like to pick that up?
I can take that. So I think if you want to stay on as a teacher, or even if you don't want to, TFM does give very good career pathway support, in my opinion. So I think around a few months before the contract ended, they would like ask us and help us to go through the thinking process on whether this is what we want, and if not, what are the other pathways out there. So they even help us to think about, if we were not staying, how can we structure our resume properly, and if we are staying, how can we plan on the support that we can get post-fellowship, even if some fellows are leaving. That's an example.
To add on to that, my cohort actually finished in December last year. And when you want to continue teaching in public school, you're required to give your decision by June, 6 months before your contract ends. So Teach for Malaysia provides support with your interview with the right authorities if you want to continue teaching in public school. And if you decide that, no, you'd like to go into the private sector or go into an NGO, like how me and Bernard did, then you'd get support from your LDO. In fact, I think Teach for Malaysia, they have like a resume book.
Yes, we do.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, a resume book where you can submit your resume alongside what you're interested in. So quite a few people in my cohort actually went on to do teaching in private schools or in college, or like me and Bernard, in NGOs related to education.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing that for Hani. The next question that we have would be from, give me a second.
Sure.
We have one from Alia. So she's asking, other than the current background that you currently have, like education, sorry, not that you currently have, other than current background and new ones like education, do you guys feel that psychological skills is necessary in order to understand, empathize, and blend well with people who are different from your common circle?
A psychology question.
We have a psychologist in the house. Kula, maybe do you want to pick that one up?
Sure. So, do psychological skills help with understanding?
Are they necessary?
Are they necessary? I would say the biggest thing that my psychology degree gave to me, when we talk about psychological skills, a lot of it relates to emotional intelligence and empathy. These things are necessary? Yes, I would say so. Because there are a lot of things which you need to take the time to understand. And a lot of times empathy comes into play. So for example, I had one student who was always sleeping in class. And at first I was quite angry, but I told myself, hold on, I don't know why this is happening. So when I went to speak to him about it, I asked him, why are you always sleeping? And he said, well, it's because I work from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. every day. And that's the only way that I can afford food and I can afford to come to school in the first place.
Yeah.
And I had students also who would just keep running around class. And he was a straight A student, but he just refused to sit down. And when I spoke to him more, I found out it was because he had no time to, to be a kid. He was spending all his time, studying, doing homework. So the only place he could, run around and be a child was in school.
Yeah.
So I would say yes, psychological skills are necessary because it helps prevent us from making our judgments too quickly. And it makes us ensure that we have the fullest understanding of the situation before we do anything. Very, very important in this line of work.
Yeah, I definitely agree, especially in the first example you gave, right? I think in the high need schools that we are sent to, a lot of kids might fall into that category. And I think some of them also, I realize, a lot of them might not have the enough money to eat sometimes, right? And that is also, and the same group of students might not have the ability to pay up certain fees, like PIPG money that school wants to as well. So I think empathy is really, really important, and to keep an open mind and not to judge them so quickly.
Yep.
And with that, it will really help us in the fellowship journey. And yeah.
Yeah. Just to quip on that just really quickly, I am guilty of the first 3 months of my fellowship where I just got so angry so quickly because I'm just like, why are you like this? Right? Why are you acting this way? But I never, the questions were all internal. I never actually voiced it out and asked the kid, why are you like this, right? And so I got really upset a lot. So empathy, I think we've mentioned this a number of times, but it's simply because I think it truly is something that's very, very important, right? And it's something that, at least for me, I think I picked up a lot from our TFM trainings that we have, that TFM does provide us with. It's a lot of empathizing and understanding people. So I think even if, don't worry, you don't have a psychology background like Kula, I and Bernard also don't have.
We're from mass comm.
But we learned it, we learned it thankfully, I think, through the training that TFM supported us lah.
Yeah, and I also think that with the cohort mates that we have, when we share stories on how different students come from different challenging backgrounds and how they deal with it, it really helps us to manage it. So don't worry if, let's just say the first month it was very frustrating. It's okay because we have the community to support us throughout the journey, and they help me personally to make a lot more better decisions throughout the journey.
Yep.
To add on slightly, I think a lot of these realizations, of course it's easy to talk about it now, but really like what Bernard said, it was a lot of conversations in my LDO and my cohort mate and Teach for Malaysia training that really helped. I would say, when you talk about psychological skills, the only thing you really need coming in to the Teach for Malaysia Fellowship is an open mind and an open heart.
Thank you. Yeah, very well said. Thank you, Kula. So on the note of I didn't have any psychological background or any knowledge prior to this, how am I supposed to be able to function in the fellowship? We have this question that also asks, how do you convince those from the non-education background to be a part of this, right? We probably don't have any idea about what the education sector looked like. For myself, before I joined the fellowship, also I was a little bit unaware. I was a little bit kind of in my bubble, right? But we're here today. So what was it about? How did you guys get convinced? I want to do it.
I know one of the things that Teach for Malaysia has said to me before, I think it's one of my recruiters, they said, a leader in the classroom will become a leader in the boardroom, right? And I think a lot of the skills that you learn in teaching are very, very applicable outside of teaching. Have you ever come across a meeting or a gathering and you're like, these people need a teacher. They need someone to put them in line. So I think a lot of it is very applicable. And I would say as a management training program, I would say I'm applying what I've learned every day. You know, a lot of it, even like how do we organize the things that we say? How do we deliver information to make sure our message is received? A lot of it comes back to teaching. So I would say, you know, whatever your background is, you will learn a lot.
I think when I read this question again, Alia said, like, especially when they don't have any idea about the education sector. So like, I think she feels a bit worried. Like, what if I don't know enough about education, and then I come in, how can I contribute? So I think with that, I also came in without knowing much, but I think like they mentioned, the TFM training prepares us really well. They, I think before we go to schools, right, they will allow us to listen from different stakeholders on how the experience is like. And we also did, I remember, some case studies on, let's just say scenario A happened. If let's just say this student, let's just say they ponting class, and then what can we do in those situations, right? So I think Teach for Malaysia really prepares us very well on the different scenarios that can happen in school. So I would say, even if you are not from an education background, you can still come in, as long as coming with an open heart and open mind. I think you will be all right.
To echo that, I think, you know, Teach for Malaysia really equipped me with a very comprehensive understanding of what Education Malaysia looks like. I confess that I didn't really understand the education system before this. You know, I know in my cohort, we did a visit to Henry Gurney School. We did a visit to Garden International School, so we understood what education looked like. I did a visit to a school in Johor, to someone from your cohort, Fatah. So I got a very comprehensive understanding of the different types of education systems in Malaysia.
And on top of that, right, like I also had the opportunity to shadow a teacher in school prior to joining the program. So I think that also really helped for me to understand the challenges they are in school. But having said that, just a caveat, right, the program that we have went through is in the past. We don't know whether you will go through the exact same thing, but I am sure that they will prepare you with sufficient knowledge about the schools before sending you in.
Just one more tiny thing to add on to that. I think even before I even put in my application, again, like I come from my own bubble, I didn't really know about the education sector as much. But TFM has these events that they have like, you know, if you're like, I'm not sure if I want to do the application or not.
I remember.
So they have like very, very cool, like casual conversations and like very like just very informal info session type things. And I think it was really helpful for me. I already 50% in already lah, and then I came to that, I was like, let's go.
And then in those events, right, they will have people from I had people from TFM board, and then there was teachers, and there was also alumni on different pathway to talk to us about how this program is structured in a way that they set you up for success, and they try their best to help you. Don't worry too much about it.
So if you have any questions, just if we have any of these events, we will post it up on our social media. So just follow us there, and then you'll be aware if we have these kind of events happening. Okay, on to the next question. We have some questions regarding the schools that we teach at. Haris Daniels asking if we teach at vocational schools. So currently, no, we do not teach at vocational schools. On top of this question, he was also wondering, what would you do if you identify that students in your classes are not academically excellent? Would you recommend him to transfer to vocational schools?
Right. Let me think.
I know one of the I know one of the things that we said initially in TFM training, I remember my LDO said this to me, is that the first thing we have to do is to understand the student and what the student wants. You know, we could be recommending anything. We could be recommending like, oh, you know, you should go do A-levels, or you should go to vocational school. Before making any recommendations, it's important to understand actually, you know, what does the student want to achieve? What does success look like in the eyes of the student? So I have actually never recommended vocational schools to any of my students unless they've already decided to go to vocational school themselves. I tried to be very non-recommendational wherever possible, because as a teacher, you have a lot of power in the eye of your student. And what I've always told them is, you know, every option is equally valid. Even if school is not a place where you are currently academically excellent, college and university is taught in a different way. even for me in school, I was a very average student, but I really, really enjoyed university because it was just so different.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think just to add on to that, right, would I recommend them to vocational schools? I think as teachers, we are there to provide options, like you said, so non-recommendational. We can let them know, okay, these are the potential pathways, but I think the decision making falls onto the students and actually the families hand as well. So sometimes I realize I don't want to be in a position where, let's just say the parents want them to continue on, and then I am recommending them some other thing which clashes with what the family wants. I don't know, am I?
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you, Bernard.
Yeah.
On that note, we have another school-related question from Rabiatul. She's asking if there's a chance that we can teach those who live in rural areas. Since this is a more TFM org-specific question, I'll just take this one. So for now, our fellows are placed in B40 community schools, right? So this could even be in urban areas and sekolah luar bandar. But ultimately, we are partners with MOE, and they are the ones who determine where our fellows go based on the need basis. But they are aware of our mission and try to keep us as aligned as possible to that.
Yep.
Okay. We have another slightly technical question from Shahira. She's wondering if a fellow of Teach for Malaysia, are they qualified to become permanent teachers in MOE after they complete the fellowship? Yes, definitely. All fellows will graduate, complete the program with a teaching diploma after the fellowship. However, of course, it's not an automatic process. Like Hula mentioned just now, you have to let them know 6 months in advance before you finish your contract that, yes, I am interested to continue to be a teacher. And then you'll have to probably go through separate processes, which, if I'm not mistaken, we also do support in, so that you will be able to go through those processes as smoothly as possible. Yeah, so if you're interested to continue to be a permanent teacher, definitely possible. Yeah. Hani asks, since TFM fellows are from non-educational background, are they assisted along their teaching journey? Yes, as mentioned just now, we do have our coaches.
Yeah.
Maybe, do you guys have any other form of support that's not in the form of our LDOs? Yeah. Do you have anything to share on that?
You can go.
Yeah. I think beyond our LDOs, we received educational support from our schools as well. I was paired with my Ketua Panitia Sejarah, and she would come into my class, she would give me advice. It was really, really helpful because Sejarah is quite a technical subject. When we talk about teaching Sejarah, it's quite different. So getting that support in school really helped. And we also had a PLC. So when I found out I was a Sejarah option teacher, Teach for Malaysia actually organized an event for me where I got to meet alumni and current teachers who are Sejarah teachers who got to give me advice. So I met alumni from previous years.
Nice.
We had like a makan at the office, and they explained like the challenges and tips to overcome it. I think it was a lot of community support that Teach for Malaysia helped provide.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think
community
on top
support.
of that, we also, so like how Irina mentioned, right? We have in the process of getting our teaching diploma, on the last few months, we have to do something called a practical, right? So then in the practical, the lecturers from Teacher Training College will come and observe us and give us some tips on how we can improve our teaching. So definitely, so on top of the training we get in school, like you mentioned, from the school mentors, we get from LDOs as well, and finally we get support from the IPG lecturers. And actually it's a lot of support, right? Sometimes you just want to say, I think that's enough for now. I need to digest what I have learned and apply it first before taking all this new advice. I don't know about you guys, but at one point there was information overload. There's so many teaching practices out there because there are so many ways you can teach your class, right? And sometimes they might not know which one works best. It's for us to find out like what the students react to the best based on their different preferences and multiple intelligences. Yeah, so definitely a lot of support.
For me, I think just one last thing to add to that, our biggest support really was just each other, I guess. That's so cheesy.
Yeah, so cheesy, but so true.
It's so true.
Yes.
The cohort is really where you find the most support that you can get. Yeah, thank you so much guys for that. Okay, let's move on to a little bit more technical question.
Sure.
Nurul Sabatin is asking, is there any tips on how to pass the assessment? So coming from a person who works in the organization itself, I will simply say you can research on our website, okay, understand what we're looking for, what are the core competencies that we're looking for in fellows, and yeah, just show us your passion and potential. And I think if you really want it, and if you have an open heart and open mind, like Kula said, I think it will show. Yeah, do you guys have anything to add on to that to help people?
I would say, first of all, it's important to start early. Don't do your application at the last minute.
That's true.
You could always ask for people to help review your application, right?
Yep.
And I think, to be honest with you, with fellowship, it's a lot like a scholarship, right? The people who are offering the fellowship, Teach for Malaysia, they want you to be a fellow. So, if you are confused on something, just ask. I'm sure people are happy to help. And if this is something you're passionate about, it will shine through in your writing. So I think what we're talking about here, it's a bit like imposter syndrome, where we all feel like, when I apply, will they accept me to be a fellow? Because I had that too. A lot of people who would make amazing fellows think, oh, they would never accept someone like me. It's very, very normal. It's very much an internal thing. Just push through it, put your application in. I guarantee, if you prepare, if you read the website, if you start early,
a lot of things.
Start early, you'll be fine.
I think I definitely agree with whatever they've said, right? So I think firstly, if you have a clarity of the mission that Teach for Malaysia wants to achieve, and you really resonate with that, I think that's very important. Once you have that, I think other things will come in place, like doing the application and starting early. But as long as, I think the mission fit is one of the most important things. And to add on to that, like you mentioned, right, the process is very similar to applying for a scholarship. Like they basically want us to succeed. They want us to do the best that we can. And if you are willing to ask them, they're very willing to support you throughout the journey. Yeah, that was my experience. Applying for TFM compared to other corporate jobs, right? I think the support that I get from the talent acquisition team was a lot more compared to other jobs.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Another application type question. She's asking if it's possible to be accepted since I don't have much working experiences, but I am very active in extracurricular activities and programs. I would just say to that, you don't necessarily have to have working experiences to apply. I don't think any of us did when we applied. However, we do have a minimum academic criteria that you will have to meet before you start your application, and all of this information, what the criteria is, can be found on our website. Okay, Kula, you don't have to answer this, but just to share, someone said they're very interested in getting to know more about your life transition from working as a cow mascot to embarking on the journey to transform students' lives. So context, Kula curated our Twitter account over the weekend, and he shared about where he started and where he is now, and one of the positions that he started was a cow mascot. Okay, see, you got a fan following you here today.
Thank you for following the Twitter. I think I've always been a person who's enjoyed trying things, because I feel like whenever I see something, I want to try it and understand it. So that's why I started by being a cow mascot. I also worked in a marketing department.
Wow.
I also was a real estate agent for 2 weeks. Then, but I can tell you when I graduated, because all of these 3 things I mentioned, I did it before graduating. The moment I graduated, I actually became a teaching assistant at Sunway University for a year. And it was there that I realized, that I really enjoyed teaching. And, the thing, when I see someone understand something they're trouble with, that's my favorite feeling in the world. And I want to make more people feel that way. And it was just that feeling of, okay, I want to try something, I want to understand something. I was a person who didn't enjoy school as a student. So I was like, okay, would I feel that way as a teacher? And so I joined TFM Fellowship to find out.
Great, thank you very much.
More than that, lah.
More than that, lah.
Okay, we do have some more questions, but I'm afraid in the interest of time, I would suggest those of you who feel like, oh no, you didn't answer my questions, you could please send in your questions to recruitment@teachformalaysia.org, and we will try our best to reach out to you. Any last words? We do have a very quick, maybe 20-second window for each of you.
I am happy to speak to anybody who would like to know more about the fellowship. You can find my Twitter. I just recently did a Teach for Malaysia takeover. Happy to speak to you. Yeah, so just get in touch.
Right. I think if it's recruitment related, start early, like we mentioned. Come in with open heart and open mind. And lastly, if you find this mission resonates with you, then just go ahead and apply. Yeah, they will provide the support needed for you to succeed in this application.
Thank you so much for your time, guys. And to the rest of you at home watching, if you are interested in the fellowship, please click on the link below. I think there's a link below where you can register your interest for the fellowship program. And you can also drop your resume in there. Just one last answer to a quick question. You were wondering, when does the application open? You can just keep following our updates on our website and also our social media to figure out when exactly that is. We're still working on getting that solidified. Okay. Once again, thank you so much for spending your time with us, and I hope it was a very informative session for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
An excellent education to me is that doesn't necessarily the education prepares you for the examination. The education has to prepare you for the life itself.
Pendidikan yang holistic juga, yang excellent education, also make a student feel that they are capable of doing something.
But besides that also, an excellent education also stands for a teamwork. We can interact with each other in our friends, and also doing group work, helping each other.
Bagi saya, excellent education means satu pendidikan yang berkualiti, memberi semua murid berfikir dengan waras mengenai masa depan dia.
At the point, many children in Malaysia don't have the opportunity to attain an excellent education.
Cabaran besar yang kami hadapi di kalangan pelajar adalah dari segi kedudukan ekonomi keluarga mereka ya.
ஏழ்மை வந்து ஒரு காரணமாக இருக்குது. இப்போ நிறைய குடும்பங்கள் வந்து ஏழை குடும்பங்களில் அப்பா அம்மா படிக்க தெரியாதவங்களாக இருக்கலாம். அதனால் அவங்களுக்கு வந்து கல்வியோட அருமை தெரியல. பிள்ளைங்களையும் வந்து அவங்க பள்ளிக்கு அனுப்பி கல்வி கற்கிறதுக்கு அவங்க சரியான ஆதரவு வழங்கலை. இதனால் மாணவர்களும் கல்வியோட அருமை தெரியாமல் சில பேர் பள்ளிக்கு போகாமல் போய் வேலை செய்வாங்க. அவங்களோட எதிர்காலம்.
郊外的学生们需要走大概几公里的路程来去上学。
So, well, I think the challenges I face in my school is about language. They'll find it really hard difficulties on speaking and interacting with other new people in English.
A movement is needed to end education inequity because none of us have the solution on our own.
Teaching is never, for me, a job. It's a service, it's a calling. So not everyone can be teachers.
Many of us become teachers, some for the sheer love and compassion and passion for education, but many become teachers because it's a job of convenience. Yeah, when it becomes a job of convenience, you cannot be an effective leader.
And that's why I'm saying Teach for Malaysia has got a different concept altogether. They are not taking teachers and training them to become teachers. They are engaging with a group of people who's passionate about education.
What we look for in Teach Malaysia is we're looking for leaders that are willing to take that step at the classroom level, school, district, or even state level and national level to drive systemic change needed.
And I come from a rather simple background. My father is a clerk. I had a person in my life who was willing to believe in me and who thought that I deserved a good education. And I think because of that, I'm inspired to think that everybody else deserves an excellent education.
So teachers are like the beacon, are like the lighthouse. I want to be that lighthouse for my students.
Throughout the fellowship, I learned to be a better leader. I guess I've never seen myself as a leader until I'm a teacher, because you're faced with hundreds of students every day and you have to come up with solutions sometimes immediately.
But the best part about the program is the alumni movement.
If they have gone through the 2 years of teaching, they would understand what it takes to educate a child. And from outside, they would be able to influence the system.
When we come out as alumni, and whatever way that we work in, we try to address this problem.
So right now, 4 of us teach for Malaysia alumni. We are starting up a literacy intervention program called My Readers. It is aimed to help students who have no foundation in English literacy, to help them go from being illiterate to literate in 27 weeks.
You know, we shouldn't be teaching the kids just so that they can answer exams. We should be teaching the kids so that they can use the knowledge to solve a problem that they see in life. And that's what we are doing in the social enterprise that I co-founded with 3 other Teach for Malaysia alumni.
Last year we achieved the Sekolah Bayangah status because we jumped, I think, more than 300 rankings in the whole of Malaysia.
Teach Malaysia is a movement of change.
Changing education is a movement because the problems that we face are actually society-wide.
I meet many people and they ask me, how could we help the Ministry of Education? And one classic way is, how do we empower Teach for Malaysia?
We need individuals, we need institutions, we need corporations, we need the ministry, we need parents of the communities, and more importantly, we need the students themselves to believe in the ideals of Malaysia.